I guess started. So we'll start first by acknowledging that, as is our tradition, let me begin by acknowledging that we in Edmonton are on traditional Treaty 6 territory and an important trading center, the Métis Nation. And today we're very fortunate to have Dale leading us through this session. Dale is our executive in residence at NAIT as well as at Northwest. He helps students, alumni, and staff. And I'm going to let him speak to that. Dale, I met previously through the Business Link, where he was working as a business strategist, I think it was, Dale.
That's right, yeah.
And then when I saw that we were hiring for this role, I kind of nudged him gently. Apply. And so over to you, Dale.
That is 100% true. I owe Cecile everything. So thank you very much, Cecile, for the support with that. I'm trying to mess around with dual screens here, and I think that did the trick. So okay. I don't know if I can quite see the chats, but I'm just going to go for it. Okay, awesome. So you thanks everybody for coming. My name is Dale Schaub, and I am the Maji Center Executive in Residence. And you might be thinking, oh boy, this is going to be boring. We're going to talk all about the regulations that you need to start your business. But the good news for you is I'm actually 1/8 cartoon character biologically, and so I make everything way more interesting. And so we're just going to fly right into it, everybody, and let's get her going. I should have some room for questions at the end of this slide. There you can see my cartoon persona. That's actually my real life logo for my business, mostly because my wife had it made for me, and I don't see any purpose or any reason to get anything a little bit more legit up. So anyway, this is me. It's very nice to meet you all. And you might be asking what my role is at the Maji Center. Well, really, I'm around to help you start a business. So if you're working on something new, maybe you have an existing business, maybe you just have like a really cool idea, or maybe you just want to get involved. Any of those scenarios, I just, I'm happy to meet with you and talk about how we can kind of make that happen right across the board. And yeah, the Maji Center is really all about all of those things: new businesses, existing businesses, cool ideas. So if you are a student at NAIT, then we want to help you. And I throw this slide up. This is my hero slide. No matter what it is that you're looking for help with, whether it's starting, getting money, planning, marketing, accounting, management, etc., then we have experience that we can help you out with. And I do at least know the definition of all of those words, and even know how to enact some of them. So solid. So just in case you're curious about my origins, my background, I'm actually funded through a program from Alberta Innovates, and it's through a program called ERIN, which stands for the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network. And then Tech Edmonton actually signs my checks. But my services are completely free to NAIT and coincidentally Norquest. So if there are any Norquest students who have dialed in today, then I'm with NAIT for 20 hours a week, Norquest for 20 hours a week. And I'm happy to help either group of students, and probably then some. So one of the programs that runs explicitly through my program is a program called the Business Development Support Program, or BDS program for short. Functionally, if you have an existing business that is innovative, what I can do is connect you to experts who will work on your business for free. And the hours start at 75. So theoretically, you can get 75 plus hours of free expert help at a value of $7,500 and up for your business. So where you need to be to access this is you need to be beyond the idea stage. You need to have done a little bit more work, maybe testing the idea or building a minimum viable product, a business plan, or even just made some progress on the idea. And it does need to qualify as innovative. And when I say innovative, just all I mean by that is thinking outside the norm. So it doesn't necessarily have to be technological based, which a lot of people think of as innovative. If you've got a new and unique creative solution to something, then yeah, we're happy to chat and see if you're quite ready for that business and to get involved with it. All right, so let's get to the reason why we were all here, which is all about starting a business and or as I call it, the legal stuff, because this stuff comes when you're fully ready to go out there and actually collect money. Okay, there's a ton of stuff that you can do and should do, and you should talk with us about it, about getting that business ready to get to the point when you're legally ready to launch. But your first step absolutely should not be to do the steps that I'm going to teach you here today. Okay. I want you to make sure that your business is gold and solid and ready to roll before we go through the legal costs of actually getting your business up and running. Now that I've said that, I want to broaden the definition. So needs to get legal? And this is a question that I get a lot. Every single business that collects money for service or product does need to get legal. All right. So whether you're a retail store, a service business, there's names like subcontracting and contracting. All of those are businesses and do need to be legally set up in the eyes of the law. Even something like an online store does need to be legally set up. And I'll talk to you about what some of the basic stuff is that you need to get done in a variety of different situations. And I'm sure you guys are going to have some specific situations for me at the end. But if you are going to make a business out of selling a service or product, you do need to get legal. All right. So the very next question, of course, is if you Google how do I start a business, you will see a wide variety of answers. And the reason why there's no real coherent answer to this question is, well, when you Google, the city of Edmonton's going to pop up, and the city of Edmonton will say, well, you need a business license. And then the province of Alberta's website will say, no, you need to register your business name and structure. The government of Canada, meanwhile, will send you to the CRA's website and talk to you about business taxes. And then since you're Googling, BC is going to show up and they have different rules. Saskatchewan's going to show up and they have different rules. Even the US very frequently shows up in those searches. And so that's why it's probably one of the most common questions I get asked, and also one of the most confusing, because the honest answer is they're all right. It just depends on where you're conducting business and what you need to get done. Sorry. All right. So in Edmonton, or excuse me, oh, that's a typo. So in Alberta, or if you're starting a business specifically in Edmonton, then you would need to register a business name and structure. And I'm going to get into all of these in detail. Get a business license, get a business number, and pay your taxes. So if you're looking for a checklist of the steps that you need to do to get your business up and going, this is going to be that actual checklist. These are going to be the steps, and that's what we're going to cover right now. All right, so step one is to register a business name and structure. And the reason that it's the first step is this is where you actually tell the province of Alberta that you're going to be operating under a name different from your own. It's going to be why when you tell the province that I'm no longer Dale Schaub in all of my activities, I will now be One Punch Consulting moving forward, or in conjunction with. And so the very first step is to just make sure that you get a business name and a structure set up. So some of these terminologies are going to be familiar to you in general life. I'm sure there's probably a few business students as well. But the 99% of all businesses, for-profit businesses, are going to register as a sole proprietor, which is an interchangeable term that also goes by trade name. So a sole proprietor or trade name, a partnership, or a corporation. Now you might be asking, what's the 1%? Well, those are going to be familiar too. Nonprofits, cooperatives, societies are all different kinds of business structures that you could set up. And these are generally going to be more structures for a nonprofit style business or group activities, which is why 99% of the time we're going to talk sole proprietor partnership corporation. All right. We are just going to talk about the 99%, guys, because 1% is an entirely different ball of wax. And frankly, the chances that there's a few potential societies or cooperatives in this group are pretty slim. So let's stick with the majority on this. So when we talk about a sole proprietor or trade name, we're basically talking about you as an extension of your business. All right. Uh, Frankly, your sole proprietor is interchangeable with you. To give you an example, when you do your taxes, you're going to be doing your taxes on your personal tax form. Uh, Basically, a sole proprietor is you, which means that it's easy to run because it's really just an extension of who you are. It's cheap to set up. There's On the negative side, there's no actual legal protection to protect you, like something like a corporation would, and it has less ways to raise capital, uh, which means that you can't sell things like ownership in the company because, well, a sole proprietor is 100% you. This is an ideal business type if your business is part time or small. So, if you've got a little bit of a side hustle going while you're going to school, a sole proprietor is usually ideal for that. If you're making a lower income, and so accountants have told me if you're making less than $80,000 to $100,000 a year, then the tax advantages are going to be better for a sole proprietor in that lower income threshold. And if you're in a business where, frankly, you're probably not going to see the threat of lawsuits, if you're an artist or functionally doing a lot of different roles, you're probably not going to be sued at any point in your career. And so that's when a sole proprietor is going to be something a little bit safer. Now, I'm going to contrast that with a partnership. A partnership is essentially very similar to a sole proprietor, only there's two people. So it's still an extension of you as a business, but it's also an extension of your partner as a business. And the business interlocks the two of you. So, on one hand, it is also very easy to run. It is very cheap to set up. And it does end up that you're tied to your partner legally, which can be a real issue, um, especially if your partner is not somebody that you necessarily trust entirely. And so you may want to be extra careful with that. For that reason, I'm actually not a big fan of partnerships. And there, again, like a sole proprietor, there isn't any real legal protection and it's harder to raise capital. And then the added negative, so if your partner steps off a bus, then that instantly ends the business. So any kind of death or disagreement functionally closes out your business, and all the assets are owned by both the partners. So this is ideal if, well, it's rare. I'm a very anti-partnership kind of a person because I think it exposes you too much to your partner's activities. Potentially, if you are married and you did want to have them on the actual business, a spouse might be the way to go. If your spouse wants to be a part of the business, then you could be a partnership in that form. Or if it's a part-time business with someone you really trust, then that might be a specific option as well. All right, that brings us to the corporation, and this is definitely going to be your most well-known one. Functionally, a corporation is a separate legal entity, all right? So I find it helps when you're thinking about a corporation and the actions that you're doing, to think of a corporation as being entirely separate from you, like a person almost. And the benefit of that is whereas in the sole proprietor or partnership, you're actually owners of the company. As a corporation, you're actually the shareholder of the company. Now, you might be 100% shareholder of the company, but it's important to think of it as a separate legal entity. So there are more legal protections under a corporation. And our lawyer Craig does a fantastic presentation where he'll largely dispute this, but I have heard that there are more corporations, legal protections under a corporation. It is easier to raise capital because you can sell a percentage of your company to an outside investor. So think like Dragon's Den or Those other type shows where they might sell 50% of the company, 20%, 10% to the company for capital to get that business up and running. It's easier to work with partners. So in a lot of cases, it's easier to sell off shares as partners come and go. And it can be, on the negative side, it can be expensive to set up and run. So to actually set up a corporation, and I forget if I've got, I think I've got this later on in the slides, but if not, ask me about some of the costs involved with some of these. And yeah, definitely is a lot more complicated to run. So whereas a sole proprietor, any money you make is your money. Any partnership money that you make is you and your partners. With a corporation, the money that comes in is the property of the corporation, and then you have to withdraw that money as an investor. And so it adds up in terms of the accounting fees and just operating and setting up that corporation separately. All right, so when should you choose a corporation? Well, really it's ideal if you're making the big bucks. So if you're making over $80,000, $100,000, I strongly recommend you sit down with your accountant to try to determine whether or not it's time to switch to a corporation. And the reason that this works out this way is if the corporation is making, we'll say $200,000 a year, you don't have to pull all of that out and get taxed at $200,000. You can instead pull out a smaller amount while the corporation ends up paying less in taxes. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more later on if you're interested. It's great if you're planning on getting investors. So if you've got a really innovative idea, maybe you're heavy into the tech startups, then you do need to seriously think about getting a corporation before you can start selling off equity in the business. And then I recommend anytime you're looking at hiring staff, that it's time to switch to a corporation because staff really do increase your liability. All right, so setup. When we are talking about setup, so say maybe you've decided, all right, Dale's just talked me into setting up a sole proprietor. How do I do it? Well, you can walk into any registry, all right? And so when I say registry, same place that you got your driver's license, your learners, any of those is a government of Alberta connector. And so you can actually set up a sole proprietor by walking into a registry. The form is called Declaration of Trade Name. And for $55 and filling out that form, which is really just the name of your business, what are your business activities are, and your address, then you can actually walk away in about 15 minutes with a sole proprietor. So very, very simple and easy to do. If you're setting up a partnership, very similar, also at a registry, you'll walk in and fill out a form called the Declaration of Partnership. All of these forms you can get online, by the way. And for $70, you'll walk out of there with a partnership agreement. Fun fact, you don't even need your partner to actually fill out a Declaration of Partnership form. You just need their information. Cecile, by the way, we own several companies together. So yeah, again, just a simple form to fill out. The only addition is the extra employees' names associated with that. All right, corporation. All right, this is the big one. So I'll tell you what you have to do to get it set up. If you do want to do it yourself, then I can help with that. But I won't help with something that you'll need a serious corporation for. All right. So if you are looking for a serious corporation to do investors or partners or anything like that, I'm going to send you to the lawyer. You need to go see the lawyer. But if you did want to set up a basic corporation and you need it, maybe you're an artist and you want to apply for grants or you're a contractor, and we can help you set up a very basic corporation. First step for that is a nuance report. So you actually have to fill out a form to determine whether or not the name is in use. Because names on a corporation are actually protected from duplication. Then the three forms you need to fill out are the Articles of Incorporation, the Notice of Address, and Notice of Directors form. And they are kind of complicated and kind of ugly. It should run you about $450 to $500 to set up your own corporation. And usually you can get it during the same day. It all depends on if somebody's there to run a nuance report for you. Sometimes it takes an extra day because the right person who does this is on holidays. And it does happen that way at registries. But once again, strongly recommend using a lawyer. A lawyer will cost you in the ballpark of about $1,000. I've seen them in as low as 800, as high as 1,200. And so, yeah, that is definitely a strong option to set up a serious corporation. All right, just a quick note. So if you Google set up a corporation, the very first thing that pops up, or at least it used to, is a site from the federal government. And then you could then easily fill that information out and get a corporation. The difference is a federal corporation is not the same thing as a provincial corporation. And I'm actually recommending that anybody interested in a corporation actually gets a provincial corporation. They functionally do the same thing, but the federal corporation has an additional step where you have to then register your corporation in the province. So it's an extra cost, and it's sneaky, right? Because it's the first thing that pops up on Google. But you don't want the federal corporation; you want the one through the province through a registry. And while a federal corporation gives you a couple of extra things, I believe, for example, you can use the word Canada in your business name with a federal corporation. You can also easily change your head office, but that functionally doesn't have a big advantage because it's not really a big difference between the province. So anyway, just keep in mind that there is a federal corporation and it is different from a provincial corporation. And I don't want to bore you, so I'm going to skim over some of these because they can be quite involved. Extra provincial registration is what you need to do if you're operating out of Alberta. So if you're going to be doing some serious activities like setting up a warehouse or hiring staff in another province, you do need to be extra provincially registered. So you'll have your Alberta corporation, then you'll be registered in other provinces. Again, don't want to go into it, but there's a lot of information there that you may want to use that for. All right, briskly moving along. So that was step one, and the good news is that was the tough one. The rest of these are fairly straightforward, but step two would be all about getting a business license, and step two is the city of Edmonton. So step one, if you remember, was the province of Alberta. Step two is the city of Edmonton, and step three is going to be the federal government. All three levels of government, right? Municipal, provincial, federal, and each one of them does require you to provide something to them, of course, right? And they all cost money, right? All right, so a business license is specifically from the town, city, county, municipality, reservation, wherever you're going to be operating from. Chances are you're going to require a business license from those particular communities. And their main concern is, well, keeping track of businesses, but largely traffic and parking is where you're mostly going to see your barriers in those areas, as well as other services. So if you have a retail building, they're going to be concerned about signage signs, they're going to be concerned about fire, all of those little things that the city is always concerned about. So the big question then is which one do you need? And you're really going to be down to probably a home-based business license versus something retail or industrial. So my guideline for that is if you're going to be operating a business, where do you want your mail to go? All right. So if you're going to be operating a consulting business, you can run that out of your home. Just being a home-based business doesn't mean you can't leave your home to go do business. In fact, a lot of businesses will keep their home as their base of operations and go out and do a bunch of different work for other folks. So most of the time, and most of the students I'm talking with are going to fall under that home-based business license. And then compare that with the retail or an industrial license. And there's actually a variety of different license types under those that are going to be really specific to the different kinds of industries that you're involved in. So if you're opening up a clothing store, you're going to need some sort of a retail business license. And there's going to be a bunch of priorities around where that's located, what it's zoned for, et cetera, that you'll need to talk to somebody from the city of Edmonton on, and ditto with industrial. All right, so I'm going to move on from that because a home-based business license in the city of Edmonton does get grouped off into two different types. Now, if you're not in Edmonton, so if you're setting up your business elsewhere, the rules are going to be slightly different, but you will still typically see a home-based business license uh, versus a retail or other license like that. So specifically within Edmonton, you're going to be asked if you want a minor, or a major home-based business license. The minor home-based business license is absolutely nobody is coming to your home to conduct business. All right. You're not having meetings here. You're largely using it as a base of operations. And if you're conducting business, you're usually leaving. Major home based business is some traffic to your home. And the number I was given is around 5. So if you have more than 5 people coming to your home a day, then the city says that you are not a suitable home based business and that you should then operate out of a retail location. All right. So if you do have some sort of traffic into your home, the city will require you to be a major home-based business license, and there will be questions. All right. So how do you get a home-based business license? Well, the easiest way is to go to the City of Edmonton website, and you will get an online form that you can fill out. The city can sometimes take 1 to 3 weeks to receive. Um, so that's probably the longest in all of these, all of our scenarios. Definitely the longest. Last I checked, $275 to get a city license, and I just got mine, so I know it renews at $244, and those are for a minor home-based business license, which I'm assuming most of you will be operating. So those are your costs. Right now, it's actually halved because the city of Edmonton is trying to help out businesses because of the COVID thing. So just know that now is a good time to get it, but it will renew at its full rate every year. All right, step 3. And this one's all about the federal government. And so there's 2 steps with the federal government. One of them is called the business number. And then the other one, which we'll cover later, is all about taxation. So let's kind of get into the business number. So a business number actually, a lot of people might know it better by the name the GST number, but the federal government calls it a business number, and a business number categorizes 4 different things. So it is literally a number that you may need for importing or exporting. So if you are importing or exporting goods in and out of the country, you will need this number. It is a number that they ask for on shipping documents. Okay. You will need a business number if you are hiring staff. And that'll actually go into some of the forms that you fill out for staff. You'll need it for your corporation taxes, and you're going to need it for your GST. And the GST is kind of the big one. So that's the one let's talk about. So GST is kind of a picky one. So really you would need a GST number only if you're making more gross than $30,000 a year over 12 months. Okay, not a year, 12 months. So if you start your business in May and it goes till May, or any real period of 12 months, then you do need to get a GST number and start collecting GST. Okay, so that's what that means when I say get a GST number, is that you do need to collect GST, set it aside, and then remit it to the government when at the end of the year. Okay. So if you do have a side business that you're running, maybe it makes about 10, 15 grand a year, then you do not need to get a GST number. You can actually operate without that. You do not have to collect GST in that scenario. However, if that business does way better than you expected, and all of a sudden you're going to end up making $35,000 in a year, note that you're going to have to pay GST on the 5,000. So any and above over the 30. All right. So just know that you're responsible for that extra money, and that can definitely weigh in on your margins. All right. Until then, yeah, don't charge GST if you don't want to. You can certainly opt in for a GST number so you can get it before you make 30,000, or maybe you just want to get some information. Maybe you just want to charge GST right from the get-go so you don't cause confusion amongst your clients. And in that case, you would need to get a GST number. It does not cost anything to get a GST number. So really, it's just added administrative cost for you. All right. So what do you do with it once you get it? Well, include your GST number on your invoices. Keep track of your GST on your sales and expenses, and then set aside that money. So do not spend that money. That is not your money. That is the government's money, and they do not like it when you do not give it to them. And any bookkeeping software will help with that. And really anything that you've got, as long as you make sure that you're logging that GST on any expenses in and out, will make the process so much easier. All right, so how do you get one? Easy peasy. You can call the 1-800 number that I've got on the screen there, uh, and go through a couple you know what, they keep changing it. So it used to be real hard. I think it might be back to easy again. But anyway, the phone number works. Or you can just apply online, and literally a Google search will get you there. And sorry, and then yeah, you can get that number right over the phone, and they'll shoot you an email for that as well. So very, very simple and quick process to get a GST number. But once you get it, then you're going to have to, respond to that GST. Make sure that you're administering it and taking care of it. All right, so that's it. That is your actual legal steps to getting a business up and running. However, I've got some other stuff in here that typically come up, and since I've got a little bit of time extra, I'm going to talk a little bit about income taxes because that usually comes up in conjunction with these types of questions. So income taxes are based on your actual business structure. So that's your sole proprietorship, your partnership, or your corporation. And so you're going to actually pay based on that structure. When we're talking about the money that you pay, it's going to be a simple calculation of the money that you're making minus any expenses. And what the difference is what you're going to pay taxes on. I'm a believer that you use an accountant. So I believe that every business owner should be able to do their own books, which are actually fairly straightforward. But everybody should then turn it into an accountant to actually process. That is my personal beliefs. And if you're more comfortable with the other stuff, no problem. But that's what I would recommend. All right. So when we're talking about a sole proprietorship or a partnership, all money gets taxed the same way, and it's all based on what your income comes in. So if you make $30,000 a year, you actually get taxed based on the amount of money that you're making. So the government actually has different tiered pricing based on your income level. So if you're making $30,000 a year, I forget the exact number, but I think you're paying 25%. And then if you're making $120,000 a year, you're getting taxed at 50% or 60%. All right. So it's going to be based entirely on your income level. And if you are working while also running a side business under these structures, then those incomes are going to be declared together. Okay. If you're going to be, so a corporation is going to be taxed differently. A corporation on its own, remember, a corporation collects all the money. That income gets taxed at 8%, which is the current tax rate in Alberta. And then any money you withdraw gets taxed at the personal rate. So if your company makes 100 grand a year and you withdraw $50,000, your corporate $50,000, which you kept in the corporation, gets taxed at 8%. And the 50,000 that you withdrew for your personal, to pay your bills and stuff like that, that's going to get taxed at around 30%, if I remember my percentages right. So it's important to just kind of keep in mind that difference between the two. All right. Oh, so I did actually make note of it. Sorry, new presentation. So there's some rough numbers that you can look at related to the amount of money that you're earning. My strong recommendation to you is to guesstimate where you're going to be. Add 5%. This is my lazy accounting method. So maybe you're going to be making less than $50,000 a year. So take 30% of your earnings, put it in a separate bank account. That's government money. That's right. So that would cover you in the event that at the end of the year for your taxes. So if you don't want to manually calculate it all out in a serious manner, just set it aside. Just as soon as you get paid for anything, automatically transfer it to another bank account, a business bank account, and that way you'd be covered. Do not get yourself in trouble with the tax man. Trust me on this. I've been there. The tax man is a terrible person to owe money to. They charge 5% interest per month on money that you owe them. Do not do what I did. That's, by the way, how I lost my first business failed. Was lousy accounting practices, and so I've learned quite a bit in those since those days. All right. Additional tips. I mentioned it before. Keep your bookkeeping software going, updated. I like to update it every day. Take pictures of my receipts on my phone and upload them onto the app. Uh, Keep copies of all my paperwork digitally and sometimes physically. I have a little box going and stay up to date. Don't. It's a. I think it's an at the moment thing. I think you're going to get yourself in trouble if you wait till the end of the month to do it. So just do it as it comes in, flag it, and do it as you're working through your emails. All right. People ask me all the time, write-offs, Dale. What can I write off? So functionally, what a write-off is it's money that you can contribute to your expenses, right? So remember, I said we have our income minus any business expenses we have. Those business expenses are write-offs, and anything that is directly related to the business is an actual write-off, 100%. And meanwhile, there's some additional things that you need to keep in mind and that you need to collect for tax time. So any dollar that you declare as a write-off just means an extra dollar that you're not paying taxes on. And so anyway, write-offs really kind of come into a big can be make a big difference, and every dollar counts, right? All right, so let's say that you're working from home. That means that you can now deduct some home expenses. All right, home-based businesses can write off those expenses, and they can write off a percentage of mortgage, rent, utilities, phone, condo fees, property taxes, right? Any of your utilities, your electrical, your water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Keep all of those bills, all right? And how the calculation works is how much, believe it or not, this is how it's done. How much space in your home are you using for your business? Okay. I once had CRA make me draw it for them. All right. So that's what it kind of comes down to. So if you're just using your office, which is one room in your home, and it's about 10% of your space for work, then you can write off 10% of your expenses. All right. So tally up all of your home expenses, your mortgage, your condo fees, your utilities, 10% deducted from your income, and that means you'll be paying that much less. All right. Vehicles is the other big one. Same kind of thing. So you can write off vehicle expenses as long as you can tie it to your work. And how you do it, so to give you an idea, some of the things you can write off are insurance, your gas bills, your repairs, any driver's license fees, registration, anything like that. You can write off a percentage of. So how do you do it? If you What you do is you actually get a little notebook or an app to calculate how often you drive for work. Write down your starting driving mileage, and then every time you drive somewhere for work or personal, whatever helps you get to the calculation, then keep track of it. And at the end of the year, you can then show that you have evidence that you maybe drove for 15% of the time. That means that you can write off 15% of your expenses. Okay. So that's how you would. So keep all of your vehicle expenses if you're going to be driving it for anything. And that includes running to the bank, running to register the business, making deliveries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Keep logs of all of those different types of activities. All right. So that is what I have. There's my contact information, and I'm just going to pop out of here so that I can see. I saw that there were some questions coming in. I don't know how to open that. Okay.
Just click the stop sharing.
There we go. That'd be easier than that. Awesome. And I'm going to guess that there were probably some questions while I was speaking. Yes, there were. All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I did get a question, a private question saying, do you in any way help staff? Is that in reference to helping you hire someone or fire somebody or do any of those types of human resource activities?
I think
If
they may be
so,
up there on Nate's
yes.
staff. Nate's staff wanted to know if you help them if they want to start businesses.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that makes way more sense. Yeah, absolutely, I would. Yes, my particular role does involve working with staff as well as students. So, yes, I absolutely would be happy to help with any staff businesses. Thank you, Yolanda. Vince says I stayed at a B&B in PEI years ago, and the owner would not go over 30,000 for the summer for that reason. GST. Then he packed up the house and traveled in the fall, winter. And that just seems a little goofy to me, honestly, Vince. Uh, GST is functionally simple. It literally shows up on your bookkeeping. You click it for saying that you want to add taxes and everything. And then, yeah, honestly, I just that extra 5% that I'm socking away for taxes at the end of the year that covers GST, so I don't even sweat it. So it's interesting to me that he's scared of it. It might be more of a philosophical thing that he refuses to pay GST. Do you have to have the business name registered first? Generally, yes, Nikki. You do need to have your business name before you can get a business license, before you can get a business number, because that's required information when you're filling out those forms. So yeah, to get a city license, I do know of people who got a business license before they registered their business name, and they made up a name. They literally just made up a name, put it in the license, and then I pointed out to them that they might want to register that name since now they're going to be legally using it. But yes, you should have that name first. So that is the first step. And then actually you can do the licensing and the GST in whatever order you prefer. I just like the licensing first. What else we got here? Are my slides available for share? Actually, let me do one better for you. I actually have a full document that outlines in detail all the steps along with the links. Is that something I can share, Cecile? I don't think I
I
can
don't
do
think
it
you
by
can
WebEx.
unless it's a link for them to download it from. But if you
Yeah,
send
okay.
it to me, I'll have it for anybody who wants it.
Done deal. So yes, I'm happy to share the slides if you're especially enthralled with my background. But far more interestingly, I'll give you a document that I have that I happily send to any students who request it, outlining the detailed steps to getting a business up and running, along with links and additional information. And I think that will be far more helpful. So hopefully that will work. Oh, you didn't want to charge the client GST. That's funny. Do I have a bookkeeping program I'd recommend for a corporation? That's a tough one. QuickBooks is the one I hear most often, but I'm not married to a particular one. Personally, I use one called FreshBooks because honestly, the only reason was I had heard from other consultants that it was the best one for billing and for keeping track of your hours. And so I go with FreshBooks. But functionally, any of the bookkeeping software that you personally find useful or helpful, I would recommend. It might also be that there's specific bookkeeping software that is helpful for your industry. So you may want to look into that. And then you may also want to make sure that it's flexible enough to handle Canadian stuff. But for the most part, they're made fairly generically, and even the ones just for the U.S. have different tax rates in each of the different states. So they just leave it generically so that you could add something like a GST within your document. Compliments. Thank you guys very much. Online businesses, are these legally required? So I'm assuming that, yeah, to get an online business legally set up, the easy answer is yes. So let's talk about the specifics. So if you're going to have an online business and you're operating under a different name other than your own, all right? So maybe you're just operating the business as Dale Schaub, which would be strange because that's my name. But if you were going to use it a different name, then you would need to be registered to operate under that business under Alberta law. It's not really something they're going to catch you on, but I'm just reciting the law to you. And then in terms of the city says, yes, you do need to be set up as a home-based business license. So the city is actually one of the ones that you almost always guarantee that you need to do is get that business license to set up. And then online business for the CRA, same thing. So if you're under $30,000 in income, you actually don't need to get a GST number, but you do need to declare that income on your taxes. Again, some of these are very tricky to catch, and that is all I will say on the matter. But yes, technically speaking, you do need to legally have those different steps. Glenn asks, how does a numbered company work? All right, great question, Glenn. A corporation, when you set it up, you can actually give it a name, or you can just leave the space blank, and the government will actually randomly allocate a number for you. All right, so that's what a numbered company is. It's literally 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 limited, which is a corporation. All numbered companies are corporations, and it's just basically that you didn't bother to set up a name for it. So for very specific businesses, this works. So maybe I'm going to do some subcontracting for Cecile, and I don't need to advertise. Nobody needs to know what my business name is. Nothing like that. I'm just going to be doing some work that way, and I needed to be set up to be a corporation to work with the Maji Center. And so I just got myself a numbered company set up in order to do that work. However, it is if you do end up marketing or anything like that, I do recommend getting a name registered under that numbered company. And so then you can actually fill out a form that that will allow you to have a name operating under the numbered company, which is actually fairly straightforward to do. The cool thing also about numbered companies is sometimes it works as a great parent company. And so as a numbered company, you can actually have multiple companies set up underneath that company. Same thing with a corporation. So with a named corporation, you can actually have multiple subdirectories underneath that company. Hope that made sense. I might be nerding out a little too much here. Can you get a name after you've registered with a number? I heard it takes time. I heard it takes time to make sure you're not taking up another business's name. It's I'm just making sure I get the essence of your question there. Frankly, it actually takes not a lot of time at all to make sure that a name is set up. I do recommend you do it in person at the registry itself. And there's two ways to check a name. Number one is walk up and say, hey, is this business name being used? And they'll do it for free. But if you need a corporation name set up, which is a little more of an involved process and it'll charge you $50, then you'll actually need a full-on nuance report done in order to make sure that that name is officially not taken up. Most of the time, I used to, for a time, do business consulting out of the AMA registry. And I watched them many times do a nuance report on the spot. Give yourself an hour, maybe even 2 hours sometimes to do it that way. But you absolutely can get a name verified, even a thorough nuance report search done on the spot if you needed to get it done same day. More often than not, you'll gotta get it set up, leave, and then come back the next day. So did I get that question right? Can you get a name after you've registered with a number? Yes. So you can get a numbered company set up, and then yes, you would set up an actual trade name operating under the corporation. And that actually is a fairly simple form. It's actually the same form you use to set up a sole proprietor, bizarrely. But yeah, I can walk you through that rather than boring everybody. Do you get audited to verify the information at the time of registration? No, at that point, so audited is a tax function. So the CRA would do an audit if they notice anything funny, weird about your taxes. So make sure that your taxes aren't funny or weird. That's my technical advice. And so, yeah, when you register, you're literally establishing the business for the first time. And so there's nothing to audit related to your business. And even if personally you're financially in ruins or have a variety of other situations, none of that stops you from getting a business. Do you also get audited when you are submitting information such as vehicle charges? Great question. Uh, the CRA will have their robots checking out all the submissions, and if there's something that is out of the norm, so that there's a range of answers that they normally see for specific styles of businesses, then they will red flag it and look into it. And so, for the most part, as long as you're doing it legally, you won't have any issues or problems. And if you are doing it legally, you'll have all your forms and receipts that are completely verifiable, so you do not have to worry about auditing. If you're not doing things legally, yes, you could be red flagged, and then you do have to justify. And then I have been audited. I told you I had some tax problems. What functionally happens is meetings are held, and the CRA will probably throw out some of your claims, and you'll have to pay more money. So it is not jailable time, or at least I didn't get that far. Linda says, I'm purchasing a corporation. The present owner and I are going to fill in the shareholder forms for sale using a Law Depot website. Is this something you could review to make sure it's all in order? It's a simple, straightforward sale. All right. So for something more complicated, like a business transaction like that, I'm going to pass on that. As much as I'd like to help with it, I do think that can get me in legal trouble if my advice isn't on the nose. And I should point out, I am not a lawyer. I've just done this kind of work, working with these types of scenarios for a variety of years. I do always recommend that a lawyer is used to set up shareholder forms. I'm sorry to say that is my belief. Law Depot does have some forms. They might work. They might get you in trouble. So I'm just going to leave it at that, Linda. I hope that's okay. Can I have a business name under a corporation that covers 2 or 3 business activities? Yes, you can. For example, under the business, I want to have a single business for rents, management, and ventures into food business as well. Absolutely, you can. You can set up a parent company, which I think is illegal, a U.S. term, but it kind of serves the point where you have a main corporation, and it could be a generic name. So it can be Dale's Enterprises, and then under each corporation, you can have Dale's Food Business, Dale's Consulting Business, Dale's E-commerce store. So yes, you can actually set up multiple trade names under your corporation. And yeah, that one's fairly straightforward. I can help with that one. If you apply to be a home-based business, how likely would you say the city would require proof that you've talked it out with your landlord and you have approval if you're renting? To my knowledge, the city does not check with your landlord if you are setting up a home-based business license. I do recommend that you just talk to the landlord to make sure that there's no problems. Some home-based businesses could be problematic, but if you're largely pushing papers and typing on a laptop, there should not be any issues whatsoever. But if you're, I don't know, farming sheep in your apartment, then it would be a concern to your landlord, and they can throw you out. I believe that is one of the reasons to throw you out. So yeah, so it's going to depend on your specific situation. Is my easy answer for that. Should I register as a corporation if I plan to hire a small group or staff? Or can I still register proprietorship and hire 1 to 2 staff members? Yes. Okay. So I like to compare sole proprietorship and partnership to a corporation by comparing them to cars. Okay. A sole proprietor and a partnership are cars. A corporation is an armored car. All right. Both can go in the same places and do the same thing. The armored plated car is going to be a lot more expensive and a lot safer to drive. All right. That's my comparison. So yes, all of the different structures will do the same thing. You can hire staff under all the different scenarios. Now, the question is that the right decision for you, Damien? If you're hiring 1 to 2 staff members, even as a sole proprietor, chances are you're going to be making over 100 grand a year, uh, well over 100 grand a year in order to justify that expense. And suddenly the odds that your staff members will screw up and you're liable for it personally go up. So I do highly recommend putting that money into a corporation. If you're going to be paying staff 30 grand a year, you might as well not be cheap and pay $1,000 for a corporation. Sorry for calling you cheap. Numbered companies is apparently a great idea, and registering the business name under if you have multiple. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, did I catch up? I caught up. Any last questions? We've got a couple minutes left. Awesome, folks. I am around at the Maji Center. Cecile posted my email address earlier. I'll put it down again. Literally, if there is anything that we can do to help you with, we are free and we're around to help you with your business. And by emailing me, how do you book a session with me? Email me, and we will find some time to meet, probably virtually. Or if you want to just ask your question by email, I'm more than happy to respond to emails and phone calls. What other stuff do I help with? Anything. Literally, if you have any kind of business questions, start with me. And if it's something that is beyond my scope, so there's certainly a few things that other people are better at than me, and it hurt me to say that a little bit, then Cecile and I will connect you with some of the amazing Maji Center volunteer experts who, and we have them right across the spectrum. We've got lawyers, accountants, social media people, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll connect them to you, but start with me or Cecile. Where's the best place to look for lawyers? My recommendation is to start probably with Craig, our volunteer lawyer, who can help you with any questions that you have. If you want him to actually do some work, it's going to depend on the type of work. I guess to set up a corporation, Craig is expensive, Cecile. I'm sorry for setting up a corporation. He runs about $1,200. I might have some other suggestions for a corporation, but Craig is fantastic as well. Yeah, a pool for lawyers law society actually has a list that you can access. Can you please put contact information up again? Oh, thank you, Cecile. Perfect. That is all for us. I feel like closing it out because I'm so used to doing that, Cecile. But no, there's no criteria. Yeah, you do need to be a student at or staff or faculty at NATE or at Norquest for that matter. But that's a side thing. So Linda, if you're any of those, feel free to reach out to me. If you are not any of those, feel free to reach out to me anyway, and I'll direct you to people who can help you because that's
You help alumni as well, don't you?
Sorry again?
Alumni?
Yes, I'm happy to work with NATE alumni as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you guys join me in thanking Gail for helping us today? Our session. Just a reminder that on May 27th, we have Government Grants 101. Everything you need to know about government grants. And then on June 2nd, ways to finance your business. And we are launching the Entrepreneurship Blue Book program in September. So if you're interested as a student in having us help you launch your company, contact us, Dale or myself, and we'll tell you all about it. Have a great day, you guys, and we'll see you next time.